Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons. After 10 long years without a Stephen Chow film that utilized the same style as his kind of breakout American hit, Kung Fu Hustle, and his previous film, Shaolin Soccer, although he did make a film before it, which I think is called CJ7, this film returns him to kind of that cartoony, crazed style that we so loved from his previous films, which I think Roger Ebert called, who said it was like Quentin Tarantino meets Chuck Jones meets Buster Keaton meets Bruce Lee, and I think that sums it up pretty accurately and is pretty much why I wanted to see any of his films. When I heard of that quote, it sounded so crazy and insane and fresh and fun to watch, and I think this film has a lot of that. Now, Journey to the West is based on a very old and famous text in China called Journey to the West, and this is only the beginning of that book, so I guess it's like the beginning of a franchise, supposedly. I'm not familiar with this book, and apparently it's only a loose adaptation. Tang Sasang is played by Wen Sang, and he is trying to learn how to be a demon hunter. He's new at it, and this is the beginning of the book where he eventually gets disciples and goes off, but at the beginning he is trying to learn how to be a demon hunter, and he even helps a village who's being attacked by a giant fish after another priest is trying to convince them that he's killed a demon and he hasn't. He kind of shows them that they should be wary in a very Jaws kind of sequence, and then tries to fight this demon fish, but unfortunately for him, he helps them defeat it, but eventually the person who ultimately defeats it is Miss Duan, played by Shun Kui. I'm probably pronouncing all this wrong, so I apologize if I'm offending anyone, who has a huge crush on him, and she kind of leads him through various demon hunting assignments as they try to stop the pig demon, and they know they eventually have to find the monkey demon to destroy him after he's killed numerous people. Animation can do it incredibly well, but it's so much harder and so rarer for live action, where you have that feeling that anything can happen and any style could come out at any moment. And I had that feeling when I saw Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle. Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons certainly embraces his style, and it's good to note that this was also directed by Derek Koch as well as Stephen Chow. I think Stephen Chow, it definitely feels like a Stephen Chow film. If you had told me this other guy hadn't directed it, I wouldn't have known, just from watching it at least. I mean, obviously he did. But it feels very much like a Stephen Chow film. But the way it doesn't feel like a Stephen Chow film, I think, is why this movie won't really probably have the legacy and kind of the reception in America that Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle did, is mostly because in those films, Stephen Chow is at the heart of it. And I think Quentin Tarantino himself said Stephen Chow is China's best actor, and he is a really good actor. He's really good at kind of this broad kind of dreamer character. And when you get to Journey to the West, maybe he is, you know, a lot of people brought up maybe he's too old to play this kind of role now, and it would have looked silly, and sure, it would have. And I understand the story probably wouldn't have fit to have him in there. But because so much of, at least in America, I haven't seen all of his Chinese films, but that he's so tied up with him being the star. And it's kind of like seeing a director who's always worked with a certain actor and then he doesn't. And it almost like the film suffers for it, even if it wasn't a film he should have been in. I honestly think after watching that, Stephen Chow's greatest muse is Stephen Chow himself, or Stephen Chow the actor at least. And when I watch this film, I think the performances are alright. I mean, I like Wen Sang and Su Q a lot actually, and I thought they were fairly good, but it did feel, I think a lot of times this film felt very episodic. Apparently the demon parts are actually from the book, even though they might seem fairly crazy. There are a lot of crazy things in this film, and I've heard it's a loose adaptation, so I'm not sure really what's from the original Journey to the West, but I get the impression he wants to do a comedic take on it. It's still fun. It's still got that cartoony energy to it where you don't know what styles are going to come out. I mean, he said his favorite director is Steven Spielberg, and you can get that from the sequence on the water village with the fish. They definitely are referencing Jaws, and then he'll have very cartoony things, and he'll have this big fat lady kind of, you know, help fight this fish by jumping on this trampoline type scenario they have with the fish. So ridiculous and so much fun, and there's so much of a fun, playful energy to his direction that's still definitely there. Had anyone else directed a film about a text that I, as an American, have never heard of, I don't know if I would have even heard of it or even seen it. And it's a testament to him as a director and how unique he is that this film works as well as it does. Maybe it's my problem with wanting to see him again as an actor that's really hurt this film, and maybe it's really not the film's fault. I've kind of thought that, but I didn't feel as engaged. I didn't feel as enthralled. I think the gags were there, the fun was there, the energy, the playfulness, all of that was there in the direction. But it didn't engage me the way that I really felt I was more attached to the films that he starred in than I was to this. You know, I certainly had a great time, and it's one of the more kinetic, crazier films you'll see this year. I don't think America has this kind of playfulness in the action sequences that Stephen Chow has. He just has a real fun and play with those action sequences and a goofiness that anytime, I think America's not really good at goofy action sequences the way Stephen Chow is. They always feel inspired, they always feel well thought out. They always have not just an era of fun and silliness to them, but like there is a hint of intelligence underneath the silliness. And I know he's known for his kind of sillier style in Chinese cinema and in cinema in general. It feels like he knows purposely what he's doing with this silliness, but he's an expert at silliness. Certainly he can shoot like a highbrow director, but he makes very lowbrow jokes. But I think he knows how to do the lowbrow in a very highbrow way, or at least he's a better lowbrow director than a lot of directors are. When I see films with this much color and the brightness and the fun and the playfulness, that basically like I think a kid could get into this movie. And most time you see kids movies like that, I kind of roll my eyes, and if I do see them, I usually don't like them, not just because they're for kids, but because they're bad movies. And I don't think this is a bad movie. I think this is a very fun, energetic film. I don't really get to see too many foreign films that are this playful. I feel like that never kind of makes it over here. You always just see clips of them, and that, you know, you could, if you're lucky, you can get a copy. The thing that's really suffering from Journey from the West, to me, honestly, is that connection. You know, there's still good actors in this film, and this is still a very good movie, actually. But without having that connection, I don't feel as strongly about it. You know, Stephen Chow, as that Roger Ebert quote I said before, he is kind of like Buster Keaton or a Charlie Chaplin in a lot of ways. I do kind of get that innocence through the way he looked at the girls in his various movies, his love interests. But I never really thought Charlie Chaplin was very famous for those films he directed that he wasn't in, that I can barely find anywhere. You know, no one really talks about those. And, you know, I haven't seen those films. And maybe there's a reason for that, and maybe they're still good. But I don't think they'll ever be modern times. In a lot of ways, I don't think Journey to the West will ever be Shaolin Soccer or Kung Fu Hustle. But it's still a very enjoyable, fun, cartoony movie. I still really like Stephen Chow, the director, a lot, but I kind of feel like he's a lot stronger when he's working with Stephen Chow, the actor. So if you have seen Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.